Hello and welcome, everybody. If you love LED strip lights, then you are in the right place. If you want to use LED strip light installation to grow your business, you are doubly in the right place. My name is Catherine O'Brien. I'm here for HitLights with a HitLights Quick Hit. We are joined by one of the top techies at HitLights, Brix Gutierrez. Brix, hello and welcome.
Hi, Catherine. Thank you for having me today.
I'm so glad to be talking to you. Why don't we just start off easy? And you are really in the tech side of things at HitLights. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody what you do?
I've been with HitLights for 3 years, and I am the resident tech support specialist for HitLights. So we help customers do their installations and troubleshoot some of their troubles during the installations as well.
And we really try to have a lot of knowledge base at HitLights, as well as really give that customer support that is setting us apart from anybody else. We know that sometimes there's a learning curve with LEDs. Would you say that's true?
Very much true, because there's a transition from the traditional lighting and to these sort of new kids on the block lighting, so to speak, for the LEDs. So there is a quick transition, and there's quite a bit of learning curve when you transition from the old to the new.
But fear not, because we are here to help you. And so we're going to just right now today, we're going to talk about some of the top questions that we get at HitLights, and we're going to use our expert Brix to help answer some of them. And I want to start off with one, because I know this is really common, and people probably have a lot of this if they're just getting started with strip lights. And that is, can you connect multiple LED strip lights together? I bet that's something you hear all the time. People want to have a nice long strip. So tell us a little bit about that. Can you connect LED strip lights?
Well, that would depend on the strip, to be honest. But the general rule of thumb, the rule of thumb would be for high density strips, you're limited to one spool of strip that depends on 16.4 feet to 10 feet. But if it's a high density strip, you're limited to one spool in series. And then if it's standard density, you're limited to two spools in series. But there are other ways that we can go around that. That's where we help you out in terms of wiring and how to power them to make the application seem longer, or to interconnect them.
Sorry, and then for the uninitiated, what is the difference between a standard and the high density strips?
Well, standard density would have less LEDs than the high density. So high density, actually, the other term for them is double the density. It means double the amount of LEDs per roll. For example, our premium Luma 5s would have 300 LEDs per roll. That's a 16.4 footer spool. For the high density, it's double that. So it's 600 LEDs per spool on a 16.4 foot ride.
Wow. So that's the difference. So it's literally double. So for a standard, it's 300 lights per that spool, and then up to 600 on the high density. Wow. Geez.
Yes, ma'am.
That's a lot of good light output there, I'm sure, with the high density for whatever people have their task for. So the connecting is dependent on the type of strip that you're using. Does it depend too on the application, like where you're putting them?
Yeah, that would also depend on how you wire them. For example, the most common applications that we have would be cove lighting. So for cove lighting, we recommend high density strips, but you're limited on the length. There's a length limit on that, only one spool. But the other way that we can go around that would be, since it's a cove, it's typically a circle or a square application. So the best solution for that would be double end powering. So a lot of people don't really know this, but you can actually connect the strips together in a single run and have the power from the beginning and at the end of the strip. So this way it mitigates the noticeable dimming if you connect too many strips at the same time or in a single application.
Well, and that actually leads right into my next question, which was, how do you power these lights? I'm sure a lot of people don't quite get, or they might feel a little intimidated by that. So you were just describing where we have power on both ends, but just maybe walk us through starting from the most simple application. How do these lights get powered? And then talk about some of those connected.
Sounds good. Well, for LED strips, these are low voltage lights. So you need actually a transformer to power them. You can't really power them directly from your source or from your outlet. That would be a high voltage power that's coming out of the wall. So you need a transformer to transform or convert the power from AC to DC. So it's general conversion from 110 volts to 12 volts DC for residential applications. But right now we also have 24 volts DC conversions and 24-volt lights. So that's how they typically work.
And the power supplies, is that something that HitLights offers? I already know the answer, but I want to hear it from you.
Yes, ma'am. We do offer power supplies. We have two versions of power supplies. Those would be the regular power supplies that are non-dimmable. And then we have dimmable drivers as well. Those dimmable drivers also have quite a range. And you just have to give us a call or contact us to see what works best for your application.
Now, is that something that you could help people out with is doing those calculations that know, so that the person, the consumer, or the person who's doing the installation would be able to kind of figure out before they get started about how many power supplies they need for their strip light installation?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, that would be the most likely, or we would prefer that. We would really prefer to help customers lay out what they need, what the parts they need, and how we can go about in controlling or powering and wiring up the setup.
And, you mentioned a word dimming, and I know that like in LED lighting 1.0, well, that was one of the limitations, is that they weren't dimmable. But now a lot of strip lights are dimmable. Can you tell us a little bit about that option?
Yes, mostly of the strip lights right now would be dimmable, but it would depend on the driver and on the application that you will be using them on. For example, the most common ones would be under cabinet lighting, and then they want them to be controlled or dimmed by an in-wall dimmer switch. Those type of applications would require a dimmable driver. You can't really use a regular power supply or a regular transformer and use an in-wall dimmer to dim down the lights. It doesn't work that way. The the dimmer switch would require a special type of power supply to communicate with the lights to let them know that they are supposed to dim down in the brightness. So, but in some applications, you can dim the strips using a non-dimmable power supply. That would also require a different type of dimmer. So it would be an inline dimmer switch, which connects in between the LED strips and the power supply. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I mean, I think for some of our pros, they're like, oh yeah, they're following right along. But for this is for some people who are lay people or just getting started with LEDs, it might sound a little intimidating. But again, we do have people that can help you along the way. And I was thinking about, I felt like I gave myself a gold star when I asked you that time about the dimmable drivers, and I was like, okay, is this like the brain of the whole system that tells the lights what to do? And you're like, yes, I can get behind you saying the brain. So I always like to think about the drivers as being like, that's sort of the brain of telling the rest of the whole setup what to do.
Yes, ma'am.
That you mentioned about the wall dimmers. I think that's an exciting thing that people might not know about. A lot of times people think of LEDs and they think of the little small remotes. And so it's nice to know that there's options. Do you find that most people are putting in that type of the dimmer on the wall?
For general applications, for residential, that is the common applications that we use, and that's how they go to it. For the regular plug and play, I think that would be the one that the customers actually want, the little remote that you were mentioning.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of cute, but they can start gathering all over the place. I do know we should tell people that some of the lights, the smart lights that we offer, you can actually control with your phone.
Oh yeah, definitely. We do have them in multicolored strips, and we actually have a video about that and how to pair them. So you can go to our YouTube channel and check that out. But to go in deep in that, there's an application that connects it to the Wi-Fi. So you just sync it up to the Wi-Fi and then control it using the app.
Turning gears a little bit here, we talk a lot about the strips, but one of the advantages of LED strip lightings is that they are bendable and that they actually can be cut. Can you take us through the wonderful world of cutting your LED strip lights, as well as maybe shaping them to the application that you have in mind?
Well, yeah, I think that's actually the good thing about LED strips and how they are a lot more flexible, so to speak. Not just physically, but in terms of applications. But so for LED strips, for the 12-volt versions, there are cuttable every 3 LEDs. There's a cut line right along that. Actually, I have a sample here that not quite sure if they can see it over the camera, but this would be one of the strips that we have. And then if you can see, I don't see quite sure if it's, so that's 3 LEDs, and then there's the cut line right in between. So there's a guide rail, and then there are copper pads that you can use on that to connect wires using connectors or through soldering. And then as you can see that they are bendable, so they're easy to install in any under cabinet lighting or in cove lighting. The only drawback is you can't bend them sideways, but they are bendable. That we do have another strip that is bendable. We call it the wave strip. So those ones are most advisable if you are using them for signages, because they can bend sideways at a certain degree.
Yeah, I was thinking, a lot of people, if they ever see behind the scenes on a sign, is just, it's not that many lights that illuminate a huge LED sign. So the Wave product is great for doing those kinds of intricate works. If it's maybe even art applications, you can get really creative with them.
Yes, ma'am. Totally agree.
I liked how you did the little demo, and of course we'll showing off the little strip lines, and we'll those are the great kind of things that show people what the products are really like. What do people need to know? You talked a little bit about power, how we power them and the power supplies. Is there anything you want to add more about getting the power supplies and some of the offerings that HitLights has?
Actually, in terms of getting power supplies, well, this would be a bit technical, but the general rule of thumb is we don't want the power supplies to be overloaded. So we don't want to pair them with a load that is greater than 80% of their wattage capacity. So to put that in context, if we have a 100-watt driver, we don't want to pair it with a load of lights that is more than 80 watts. So to explain that further, a load would be the total wattage of the LED strip that you're planning to use, and it would convert to the total length of the LED strips that you use, and then the corresponding wattage per foot of that LED strip.
I have failed my electrical engineering degree, so I am going to have to just trust you on everything that you're saying. I just know that if I were in trouble, I can give HitLights a call at 1-855-768-4135. That's 1-855-768-4135, and talk to somebody, a real human being who could help somebody like me. Of course, our pros might not need that help, but the layperson might need a little extra assistance. We should tell everybody that HitLights does have professional installer accounts available. We have people and staffers who are ready to talk to you about those kinds of accounts. You can reach out to us and see if your business would fit with ours to be a professional installer account. We've got a lot of options, including some very informative blog posts at HitLights. So if you have questions, we invite you to come over to hitlights.com and get started. If you need tech support, Bricks is there. Are you there for people?
Yes, ma'am. I'm definitely there for people, for our customers. And if you give us a call, who knows if I might be talking to you real soon.
Wow. Straight from the video world, from the internet, right on the phone to you. That's really great. Well, Bricks, I want to just say thank you so much. Thank you for your insights and all of your expertise that helps people. If you liked this video, we invite you to crush that like button. If there's anything that we said that you found informative, hit that like button. If you want to hear more from HitLights about LED strip lights and all things LED, be sure to subscribe to this to our channel here and hit that notification bell so that you are notified every time there is a new video. If you have a question that you would love to see answered, please put it in the comments below, and somebody knowledge-based from HitLights will give it a read. So thank you so much, everybody. Thanks, Bricks, and we'll see you next time here on the HitLights Quick Hit.